Yeah.
And welcome to the All Ground Pod.
Welcome to the All Ground Pod. Welcome to the All Ground Pod. Welcome to the All Ground Pod. Yeah. Welcome to the All Ground Pod. It's episode 8 now. Just no matter what, it makes me laugh. All right. That was good. That might have been a better intro than even the last one.
Oh, shit. Down,
Okay, that was good. Anyone getting any echo from me?
No.
Okay. Oh, what's up, Burger? Welcome to the All Ground Pod. Welcome to the All Ground Pod.
Go lay down.
Is mine recording too, Ty?
What do you mean
It's not showing a red light on mine.
Oh, yeah.
How we doing?
This just shows the one that is being recorded to the iPad.
Is 2.
Oh, I see.
But each camera has its own SD card. So
Okay.
All right.
We're live.
We are live. Welcome to the All Ground Pod.
Welcome to the All Ground Pod.
This is a special episode.
Yeah, well, pretty special for us.
Yeah.
I mean, just because the whole time, since the beginning, we've been talking about 8 episodes. Just get to 8 episodes. What's the, Ty, do you know the percentage of people that don't even make it to 8 episodes?
I don't, but you know what? While you talk, I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
I'm going to see if that information is available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the whole goal was to get to 8. Actually, I think the goal is to get past 8 because Ty said something about 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 8.
Yeah.
So this would be our time to quit. You know, hang up the mics.
Yeah, let's do that. Am I number 2 or am I number 1?
You are number 1.
Okay, I might turn myself down just a tad. Okay.
Actually, that's just your mic input.
Shit.
So over here on the top right of the device,
Sorry.
the knob, the purple knob. There you go.
Okay. All right.
Headphones don't seem. Oh, there we go.
All right, let's get into this.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so
Feel good.
I was thinking, nice. Right in the beginning of the podcast,
Right at the beginning.
Burger starts
we got Burger
freaking
barking.
out. Okay,
Freak.
Let's just work through that,
Okay.
or you just call him over here.
Burger.
But I say we start our pod, kind of typically how we end it with, talking about some fights, talking about this week or this past weekend in particular, UFC 310, and then I don't know if you watched, but
It's okay.
Yeah, so
I
it'll
listened
be-
to the press conference. I do know what happened after talking to you and Tina about it a bunch. But let's just break it down, because I know who I picked to win, and I think I got a couple wrong.
Yeah. So
I think you got all of them wrong.
Well, let's just start
Yeah.
from the beginning of the main card. I think it was Du Ho Choi.
Oh yeah,
Korean
I have no
Superboy?
idea what happened there.
Oh, just looked so good.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
He looked great. I mean, his boxing is so... I mean, we were talking about this on the last pod, but his boxing is so crisp and very, very technical, very composed fighter, has a lot of power. And not only did he show... I mean, in his fights beforehand, before he had this kind of like resurgence, he kind of just stuck to the feet, fought everyone on the feet, whether it was a brawl or not. Now he's kind of evolving and becoming this like more complete athlete, it looks like. I mean, he's taken people down. We've seen it in his 2 most recent fights, this one and the last, that he's starting to use his grappling. He's starting to take people down. He's starting to grapple them a little bit. He finished him with a crucifix,
Crucifix.
Yeah, crucifix TKO. You have that stat, Ty? Is that weird?
Well, I'm seeing all kinds of various stats, but I will say it's even more dire than you thought.
Oh, wow.
90% don't make it past 3 episodes.
Oh, shit.
And then of the remaining 10%, 90% of those won't make it past 20 episodes. So it falls off pretty hard.
Well,
but remember what
new
you
goal.
said. we had no doubt that we wouldn't not make it this far without quitting or thinking about quitting.
We
didn't doubt
that we
it.
wouldn't not make it, at least not to this point.
Yeah. Well, we've made it further than most people, but we still haven't made it to the pinnacle. And, you know, that's our next goal. Our goal was 8. Now our goal is 20. All right. Because we want to be in the top percentile of podcasters. Yep. So, you know, congratulations to us on 8.
Cheers. Wait. Oh. I don't think a water bottle cheers is that cool.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to us on 8. I think we did well. And 20 is our next goal, episode 20. So expect now that we're on episode 8 to have some guests on the pod, maybe do a little interview. I didn't even want to say the word interview because I think we know so many people in the martial arts community and people outside of the martial arts community that have like just cool ways of thinking and are just cool people, nice to listen to. And I think there's a lot of people that we could have on here to just chat and hang out with rather than,
so.
You know, obviously ask them some questions and they could ask us questions, but just more than anything, just getting on here and chatting with some people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Excited to introduce some of the people we've met along the way, you know, maybe get some big names in here that we've, you know, become friends with.
Yeah. So it'll be a surprise, but just know that it's going to be sick.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of someone that would be crazy to have on the first.
Right off the bat?
Right.
Like 9th episode or 10th?
I think you should just promise that Joe Rogan will be on your podcast for episode 9.
That'd be sick.
Then the first part of episode 9, sorry guys.
We missed
Last minute, he had to do something else. Record his own podcast.
No, honestly, people are just lucky that they have Temp Ty on here. You know, that should be just enough.
Yeah.
Don't take me for granted, guys.
Anyway, we got a little distracted there.
But going back to
Doo Ho Choi, Korean Superboy.
Yeah.
He looked awesome, honestly. He looked super composed, dominated every aspect of the fight, grappling and the striking. It seemed like they were very I think it was something he just caught in the moment, but he kept catching this left uppercut off the orthodox stance, right? Mm-hmm. And I think once he landed it clean and saw like, oh, that's an opening, he just kept throwing it and kept landing it over and over and over. It just looked so sharp. And then eventually he got to his takedown and he just grappled the crap out of him. But yeah, TKO finish,
super cool.
Crucifix.
It's cool to see someone take the time to develop and come back even stronger. I know you said he had one fight prior to this, but he was out
recent.
It
was very recent.
And he was out for 4 or 5 years?
So he had one fight. No, his Cub Swanson was his last fight in the UFC prior to his new resurgence, I guess is what you would say. But it's honestly so cool to see, and it's almost refreshing to see people take the time to develop their skills. You know, and step away from the sport. Because it's the intelligent thing to do.
Yeah.
No, I feel like too many people just stick into it and they end up, you know, they're taking damage to the brain, they're taking damage to the body. Yeah. And it just when you're constantly in fight camp, you're not necessarily taking the time to get better as an athlete or as a martial artist because it's just always physical. Yeah, obviously you are refining your skills, but I don't know if you're adding new skills during that time. It's more refinement and just getting in shape, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, naturally you're going to get better. You're going to improve your technique and everything's going to feel super tight by the end of the camp.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think taking the time, we talked about it a little bit this morning, but developing new tools, developing new weapons. I feel like that's something that a lot of fighters want to introduce more. They want to have that time. Maybe they don't, but I feel like I would. But there's this, limited time situation with MMA where you only have 10 good years or something. But I think that also depends on how you're taking care of yourself. What's your longevity routine? How are you ultimately being a martial artist on and off the mats? Are you taking care of your body, your mind?
Yeah.
I was thinking there's so many people that we were watching, just so many names, people coming up that you just don't even hear of anymore.
Yeah.
They've just either, I don't know, had something come up or exited the scene.
Yeah.
Well, like you look at like Paddy Pimblett,
Pimblett.
Yeah.
He Batty or Paddy the Batty.
Yeah.
He gains like massive amounts of weight. He's kind of like renowned for how much weight he gains in between fights, and it's like unhealthy. Amounts of weight. It's kind of ridiculous.
That's Laird right now. That's what Laird's doing.
So fat.
Yeah.
So fat.
It's dirty bulk. It's a dirty bulk, boys.
Nasty.
I just call it a nasty, dirty bulk.
If you call it the right thing, it's not as bad.
Now, honestly, Paddy Pimblett is one of those guys too that when he starts eating, it just everything goes to his face right away. You know, like he has videos on his Instagram of him like after his fight with his little chunky face, and then you know he'll pull up the shirt and he's still got a 6-pack, and it's just weird. It's like one of those guys that just all the retention goes to the face. You know, You know, like TJ Dillashaw was kind of like that too. Like just these chipmunk cheek type things. Yeah. But it's kind of funny, honestly. Big fan of Paddy. Big fan of Paddy.
He's fun.
He's a funny guy, but he seems like a
Scouser.
Yeah, seems like just a personable dude, like a real personable dude. Yeah, he's got to get his weight in check sometimes.
At least he's authentic and transparent about it.
Yeah,
he watches his YouTube channel and he's just eats like shit.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, do you think that's going to catch up to him?
I mean, yeah,
at some point.
Yeah. In the long run.
It affects your whole system. It's probably affects his sleep, you know, how he ultimately feels when he gets back to training. He's more prone to injury with all that inflammation. I mean, I'm sure it affects him a lot, but he's a professional and knows how to, you know.
And I think he's the type of guy to really dial in during fight camp. You know, for like a month or two after, I'm sure he's just indulging. But when he's in fight camp, I feel like he's the type of guy that's just super dialed in.
It's just a switch. He's switching on and off. He's like, I'm disciplined now. For
it's
the next
more like
10 weeks.
Yeah, the what he's doing is more gonna have an effect on him in the long run.
Yeah, I mean,
like
I'm just saying, like
the career,
the longevity of his career. Like, could he squeeze out more years of being competitive if he took care of himself better?
When you see like people don't typically like fighting at a high level, or you don't see it often in people fighting at a high level, like over 35, over 36. You know, it's like it's less likely. So I don't even know if his goal is to like, you know, squeak out a couple more years. I think his goal is to just be champion as quick as possible, and then see where he can go from there. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's gonna affect his career completely, you know, unless he were wanting to fight into his 40s or something like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Let's finish breaking down the card real quick.
Yeah, we keep getting distracted.
So we had Duho Choi, and then the next person you wanted to watch after was Kron. And
so we were talking about Duho Choi and how he took the time to get better as a martial artist, and it's really showing. You know, he's developed in all levels of all facets of the sport.
Yeah.
And with Kron, it's kind of like the opposite. Yeah. You know, he fights he doesn't fight often.
Yeah.
And
probably doesn't fight enough, and you're not seeing that evolution in his game.
But even then, like, I don't think it's a matter of fighting enough. I think it's a matter of doing the right thing outside of the fight camp. Yeah. You know, and I don't think he's really has the drive to become like this exceptional martial artist in different areas of the sport. I think he's like, it just seems like he's stuck in this like, I want to show how great traditional jiu-jitsu is still, you know?
Yeah, I think he's stuck in that like old school, like tough, you know, SoCal mentality where he's just like not looking to improve, but still just show like how tough he is, you know, and the fact that he can just, be that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's honestly not proving to do well for him.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you don't know what happened in the fight, Kron Gracie got knocked out via a massive, actually 2 elbows by Bryce Mitchell because he pulled the guard. Yeah. He had one moment in the fight. Everything else looked very, very sloppy. His striking looked sloppy. And for an elite level grappler that he is, like to not even try to develop your wrestling is pretty bizarre to me. I mean, that's just what it seems like.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't think his goal is to be like an elite level martial artist. I think his goal is to just prove how good jiu-jitsu can do in the modern day of MMA.
Do you think it's that? Do you think he's like actually trying to prove how good jiu-jitsu can be? Because it doesn't seem like that. I think it just seems like that's what he knows best, and he just sort of has this false sense of security in his game, or like false sense of what he can ultimately rely on. And I think probably just, obviously he's an ADCC world champ, and the son to arguably the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner of all time. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like he is almost like ignorant to the fact, that you need to wrestle. I don't even think he's trying to prove that this type of style will work. I think that he's straight up just ignorant to like learning wrestling.
Yeah, maybe. I also think,
which sucks because I like him. Like I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Of him. But
yeah, we've always been in. When it was announced that he was going to be in the UFC, we were so excited, and we wanted to watch, Kron, Hickson's son, to fight in the UFC and kind of like show. Because really, there's no one at his level in jiu-jitsu. If he were able to show it all, if he were able to show his top game as well, his back attacks, right?
Yeah,
his submissions. I think there's not many people at the level that he's at. In jiu-jitsu particularly.
Yeah, just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But not even like grappling as a whole.
Yeah.
Because he's relying strictly on his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer to see. I definitely I don't want to see him lose, but this is just too just scary of a game to not want to prepare everything, or to not want to just make everything sharp. And you and I were talking earlier today, or maybe yesterday, but in the amount of time that he's been fighting professionally, you see massive development in a lot of people, whether it's their striking or their wrestling. Like I was telling you, it seems like Bo Nickal's striking is already better in the amount of time that he's been in MMA. Yeah. And Kron has been fighting professionally since before Bo, I think, even decided to
do MMA.
Yeah. So it's like, obviously he's not even choosing to take time to try to develop those skills.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer to see. But he had one moment. He had a pretty solid attempt at an armbar, but Bryce Mitchell stayed calm through it. He was up against the cage, and he just kind of stepped over his body and eventually got out of it.
I have a question about that for both of you guys. Do you think, when it comes to an athlete that's not progressing as fast as you want, do you think that's the athlete's fault or the coach's fault, or both? I think who does the blame fall on more?
I think it's both, but it's also, I think in the athlete sense, you have to have a willingness to learn. You have to have a passion about this specific topic. I teach MMA to a couple people, and there's people that obviously enjoy striking, and then there's people that obviously enjoy the grappling side of things, and they're both gonna obtain the information from either one of those a little better than the other, because I think that's their focus, and that's where their willingness to learn is. One of them really enjoys the wrestling in jiu-jitsu, so I think he's learning rapidly in that. And then you kind of see that, how willing are you and how passionate are you about learning that specific thing? And that's gonna definitely increase just how good you get and how fast you do that.
Yeah.
I think it's just case by case basis. I mean, so you look at Kron, and we don't know what's going on with him and whoever's coaching him, but I mean, maybe his coach is saying, Kron, you've got to get better at wrestling. You've got to get better at striking. Let's work on that. And maybe Kron's saying, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the coach is like, Kron, you know what? You're such a high level jiu-jitero that's all you really need.
Yeah.
So in that case, in the one case, it would be Kron's fault, and the other case would be the coach's fault.
Yeah.
So it's case by case, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a coach that's maybe bad at explaining things and makes it hard to understand, but it's not going to be as bad as someone that just completely, like you said, neglects different areas and says, oh, you don't need this.
Yeah.
Right? Because even if someone's not the best coach or not the best at explaining or teaching. If they're trying like to give you these different parts of it or these different parts of martial arts, like you're gonna get better.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna get better.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely complete honesty with yourself too. And I think that's what a great coach does is he exposes you, you know, and like any relationship, a great relationship, people are going to expose you, you know, and make you think about everything you're doing and how you're thinking. And yeah, having that ability as a martial artist to just be exposed and be honest with yourself about what you are not good at and what you really need to work on, like religiously, in order to succeed. Because this is such a dangerous game. It's not worth, you know, just focusing on one thing and then you take a shin to the head, you know, or a knee, you know, or you just drown on the ground. Yeah, 2 elbows. You know, it's not worth it. And I mean, eventually that's learned. When you're ignorant to the techniques that need to be drilled consistently specifically for this game, because you have to have the wrestling, you have to have the striking, and you have to have the defense. You know, if you're blind to any of it, you'll be exposed in the cage, and that sucks.
I mean, you talked about this. You said you can't be great at everything, right? Yeah. You can't be like world-class wrestler, world-class jiu-jitsu, world-class Muay Thai fighter, like your boxing, whatever. Like you can't be great at everything, but there's a requisite level you have to be at for all of those things in MMA, in the modern MMA. Like you have to be good enough.
Yeah, yeah. Or at least you have to know like the, how do I put this? Like if you're a striker and you want to be an effective striker, then you got to know that someone is eventually going to try to wrestle you or grapple you. So what should you focus on? You should focus on your striking and you should focus on your wrestling defense. You know, so it's not like you have to be exceptional or like decent. You don't even have to be decent off your back, because you want to put yourself in a position to never be there, right? So you're like, I don't need to learn many submissions, because really I just want to get super high level takedown defense and continue to sharpen my striking so that no one can stand on the feet with me, and then no one can take me down because my takedown defense is so sharp, you know? Yeah. So it's like you can put like, you got to know what someone's going to do against you. Like if that's your style, you got to know that someone's going to try to, you know, put you where you're
worse.
Yeah. Where you're not as good.
Yeah.
And then you can adjust your training based off that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's super necessary for people like me specifically. I don't do much like sport jiu-jitsu. Like very rarely do I train any like guard techniques, you know, sweeps or submissions from bottom at this point in MMA. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I study it and I teach it for the students, but in MMA and for my personal practice, like I'm not going to do it much, because if I'm on my back, my focus is getting back to my feet. Right? Obviously, like you can reverse the position using a sweep, and those are going to be there, but my primary goal is to get back to the feet and get to my own takedown, right? So when I'm on bottom, my focus is like stand-ups, get-ups, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I'm standing, my focus is on wrestling and striking effectively to get to my grappling.
What is your focus for when I'm glued to your back and you can't escape when we start rolling live again?
You mean last night when you couldn't take my back?
Yeah, I was taking it easy. Yeah, because I don't want to hurt you.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is back elbow to the nose.
To the nose.
Yeah.
Nose breaking is big for him. He likes breaking.
Yeah. I'm going for the points.
But in all seriousness, like looking back at, you know, you said you don't really practice the sweeps and stuff in MMA, but an argument could be made that you're high enough level at jiu-jitsu and you've done it for so long that if you really need it, it'll be there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've practiced all those things for so long and from such a young age that I know how to do it if it's available, but I don't see myself doing it very often. And I don't, when I'm in these I was just watching some of my sparring videos recently, and it's not likely that I get put on my back, but when I do, my focus is solely getting back up to my feet right away. And it's not even off balancing. It's just like clearing my hips, clearing my knees, getting back up to my feet. So it's not like I'm, all right, I got to lock them into the guard and then, start underhooking a leg so that I can pull into K guard and start sweeping using that or get into my single leg X. It's mostly just clear the hands, like clear my hips so I could start building up a base and then get back to my feet. And then a high focus on wrestling defense and wrestling offense. Because
that's a really cool thing about your journey and like tying it back to Doo Ho Choi, the first fight that we talked about, but you took like 4 years off between your pro debut and then your second MMA fight. And it was just like completely different fighter. I mean, we were focusing, I think that was a time where you got to be like very honest with yourself, very, just working to understand what you needed in order to be successful in this dangerous game. And decided like, I need to focus on being able to control someone, like take them down and submit them or take them down and, avoid damage as much as possible.
Right.
Because before we were doing so much striking. We were going to the boxing club. We were sparring every week at the boxing club. And then we were doing our MMA sparring and a lot of it was kickboxing. And I think we started to get, and then because we also knew that we always had the jiu-jitsu to rely on if it hit the ground. We're like, we'll be fine with the jiu-jitsu. Now, granted, we still wrestled. We had a great wrestling coach. You were really passionate about wrestling, but I don't think we were passionate enough or had the insight yet to understand how to use it in MMA to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I think we had different mentalities. Like back then, it was more just like being well-rounded. Like, oh, I can attack. I can attack a single leg or a double leg if I want, or try to wrestle from the body lock, and then I can strike, and then I can do. But now there's like a focus, and with that focus, it makes me feel more powerful. Like, I'm going to get you down and I'm going to control you and I'm going to beat you up. And then when it's on the feet, I'm going to be as technical as possible, to evade and also to land my own strikes. And so far that's worked really well for both of us and for me particularly. But yeah, I think there was definitely a headspace change within that 4 years. And honestly, I accredit a big part of it to the Dagestanis and like training with them. And getting to see, because I used to be like that. I used to want to just, if I got put on my back, I was trying to sweep you or submit you, throw up triangles, throw up arm bars, And then I think the first time, and we did start to develop a different style during this time, but it really stood out when I started grappling and training with Umar, who's now fighting Merab for the title. But I just remember the first time we were ever in a wrestling exchange and he was on his back, like he was so relentless to get back to his feet. Like there was never a moment where he stopped moving. Like he was just like, I'm getting up no matter how tired it's going to make me. I'm going to get back to my feet. I don't care if it takes a minute or 2 minutes, but I will not stop moving until I get back to my feet. And like the amount of stress and the amount of fatigue that makes as the person trying to hold someone down is crazy. So after like getting to feel that myself and getting to kind of understand that and see that from them, it just like started to slowly develop my style into like, okay, yeah, that's how I need to be. Cause I am super good from the top position. I can take a lot of people down. Like if I get put on my back, there's no wasting time there. I'm getting back up and getting to my wrestling or getting to my striking.
Right? I think it was cool that happened too, because it sort of like unlocked a toolbox that you already had that you just hadn't been using. Like Laird was always Laird was crushing it at wrestling. And in his senior year in high school, it was 45-5, and then outside of that, anywhere we wrestled, I mean, we were trying to shine, and Laird was shining especially, and then learning that like from the Dagestanis, from everybody at AKA, being exposed to that, I feel like it allowed you to just tap into that toolbox. And then they were there. So all you had to do was just let them shine. And you just got you got so good so quick.
Yeah.
And some of the sparring sessions are just insane to watch. Things that'll never be seen, but it's so cool.
I think that's like kind of, especially as a higher level athlete, like I wouldn't recommend this, or I don't think this is as necessary for people that are just starting in their journey, but for us as like higher level martial artists, I think all it takes sometimes is just to feel it, to feel what like another person at the highest level. I mean, Umar's fighting for the title, and I believe that he's going to win and he's going to be UFC champion. But to feel that level, and then to just be like, oh, like I can do this. I can do this too. I can implement this and I can do it to the exact same level.
Yeah.
Right? Is just huge, especially for higher level athletes who can take it and adapt it and apply it to their practice or to their live,
Yeah, totally.
Life goes.
Yeah, when you have those moments where you prove it to yourself by, competing against someone that is at the highest level or has become a world champion, you know, those are moments where you're like, I can totally do this if I want to. All it takes is just consistency and discipline and the will.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like training at AK was such a huge help. And you talk about like some of those sparring sessions that, might not ever surface, but that's the cool thing about it is like, and that's the great thing about martial arts too, is that you can train with these other high level athletes and like no one needs to know what happened. Yeah. Like only the closest people, can know. And like, that's like it's a part of respect. And also like, cause people ask me and I'm just like, like everyone I spar is tough. Like everyone I've sparred has been tough,
Yeah. It's cool for me too. Like seeing my little brother who at this time you were 3-0 and just sparring with 2-0, 3-0.
No, I was just, when I walked into AK, I was 1-0.
No, I know, but just seeing some of these sparring sessions, I guess, I mean, you were 1-0, but getting 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, I'm just seeing Laird spar with big names, in that that infamous cage room at AK, which for those who don't know, like AK is known for hard sparring, dangerous sparring. Yeah. Like people get knocked out in there, they get hurt, and I mean it's as real as it gets in terms of sparring.
Yeah, I mean they're making it as real as it gets. You go into a cage, you have a ref in there with you, or one of the professional fighters. He mostly, that's also a coach there, and he refs all the sparring matches. And then you have two corners, and you're locked in the cage. You are locked in there, and then like it's like in a private room. There's few people. Sometimes there's a lot of people watching. Sometimes there's very few people watching. But it's trying to simulate a fight as best as possible. Like Coach Javier always talked about, like, if you think it's fast in the sparring room, just wait until you get into an actual cage fight. Yeah. When you fight under the lights, like everything is coming at you so much faster. Man. And it's so true. Right? Yeah. So he talked about like you gotta make it like that. You gotta make it like that in there. Yeah. And that helped a lot. And yes, it's hard and it's dangerous, but it's very effective training.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to see that people don't hold back, Yeah. Like these are guys that train with each other every day, and ultimately want the best for each other, but when that cage door closes in the sparring room, they are trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm just watching my little brother like just gripping like the fence, like freaking out, but also like so proud and so excited that this is happening. And dude, what a crazy chapter in life, the days at AK.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not always the guy with the best record that's going to give you the hardest spar. Like I've had spars. I mean, particularly, I could say his name because he's an elite level fighter, Enrique Barsola. Like that guy is a beast. Yeah. He fought in the UFC. He fights for the PFL now. Well, he fought for Bellator and the PFL, and he's been at the upper echelon of fighters for a long time now.
Fought for the title.
Yeah,
in Bellator.
Yeah. And he's beat former champions. He's multiple times, I believe. Mm-hmm. But he was just one of those guys that I'm like, every time I spar him, I know that I'm gonna be dog tired because he's this Peruvian like kickboxer guy that can also wrestle really well. Yeah. And that was like a new part of his game that he started evolving, and he was like shooting takedowns super effectively, taking everyone down. He even took some Dagestani guys down in Bellator. And yeah, he was just one of those guys that every time I stepped in the cage with, I'm like, all right, I got to be ready to be just as tired as I can possibly be, because he will not take a step back.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're throwing kicks at his head or big punches. Like, he's not going to take a step back. Yeah. He's going to try to pressure you the whole time.
For sure.
And he has an insane gas tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, Barsola, beast. I love training with him.
Does it feel good to get in the cage with a guy like that? And then when you go into your pro fight, you look at the guy across, you're like, it's going to be tough, but I face tougher.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's the biggest thing is once you step into the cage for the fight, you just look back at all the sparring sessions you had, and you're like, there's no way this person can bring me to the level of pain that I've been through by these other guys, you know?
Yeah. And
I mean, my first day walking into AK, and I mean, as a professional fighter, right? Because we trained there when we were kids, but
we stopped by.
As a professional fighter, my first day, they wanted me to spar Sean Bunch. And Sean Bunch is, he was very well established, you know? And so I was like, holy shit.
Super high level wrestler.
Super high level wrestler.
Olympic level.
Yeah, I think he actually made a world team but super high level, super high level wrestler and very, very good fighter who has been well established in the game for a long time. But yeah, he was the first person that they wanted me to spar. Like, literally the day I walked in, they're like,
so crazy.
Can you spar Sean Bunch? And I was like, I guess so. I guess so. But there was a couple moments like that where we I feel like I manifested, being able to spar with some of these elite level fighters, because I remember I would talk to Dad and I would talk to you, and I would kind of say like, oh, I really hope like the Dagestanis show up. Like, I really hope they show up, because I knew about Umar and how good he was, and I was like, I would really love it if I could spar Umar. I remember I kept saying that to you and to Dad, and like every time I would have a conversation, I'm like, yeah, hopefully we can spar. Like, that would be great. That would be so awesome. Yeah. And then one of the days I walk into AKA and Umar's sitting on the wall, and I'm like, oh shit, they're here. Like, they are here. And not even like 10 minutes go by, and I'm like warming up and whatnot, and the coach, Ron Kessler, calls me over, and he's like, hey, will you spar Umar today? And I was like, holy shit, this is happening. Like, this is actually about to happen. Yeah. But we sparred a couple times, and we grappled with each other a lot. A lot of the times that he was in that room, we were training partners, and it was just so much. The level of experience, or just the experience I got from training with them, and the amount of time I did was just
so cool.
Amazing.
When they first said that, like, obviously you were excited. You're like, wow, this is actually happening. Yeah. Was there like anything going through your mind, like, oh fuck, I don't know if I got enough sleep, or were you just like, nah, okay, here we go? Like,
I think I was just like, okay, I've been asking for this. Yeah, I've been asking for this, so now it's time. Of course, like, as soon as he said that, I just felt this like shiver through my body.
Yeah, like
nerves, like, and just like the butterflies. Where I was like, oh shit, like, it's really happening. And but yeah, I said yes right away. I was like, I've been asking for this. Like, now it's here. You know? So now there's no way I'm gonna waste this opportunity to and there's no way in hell I'm saying no to that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Also, you just want to be like. You want to be a good training partner. You want someone that they can rely on to like get good rounds with, especially those high level athletes. I know that's a big thing for me is when people show up for me, and like there was a lot of times at AK where it was hard to find sparring, or, people weren't sparring that day. So yes, you get injuries. There's days that you feel sleep deprived, or you just don't feel your best, and it's best to take rest. But anytime I could, I wanted to be like someone who could step up for those higher level athletes too. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You had a good crew of people too that would step up for you, no excuses.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. And it ranged from 135ers, 155ers, 145ers.
Even 170 people that fought at 170, you were sparring against.
Yeah, I mean, rarely, but yeah, it happened a couple times. I mean, even getting to train with Umar Nurmagomedov,
Yeah.
Umar's brother.
Yeah.
That guy is so good.
It's so cool.
That guy is so good. He's probably one of the best athletes like I've trained with. I mean, he's big. He's a full 155er.
Yeah.
But he is just elite everywhere. Wrestling, grappling, striking. Like, he is one of those guys. You know how I'm talking about, like, it's hard to be elite everywhere. It's hard to be, like, very, very good. He's very, very good everywhere. You know, wrestling, he can wrestle with the highest level. Grappling, he can grapple with the highest level.
Yeah.
Striking, he's proved already that he can strike with the highest level strikers in Bellator and in the PFL. But yeah, so much learning going to train with those guys.
What about the like feeling ready? So at All Ground in February, there's the jiu-jitsu competition that you've got a bunch of people that are going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and for some of these people, it's maybe their first competition of any sort whatsoever in front of other people. For some, not so much. Some people wrestled in high school and stuff. But mindset wise, like, what advice do you give people? Because I know that when you go into something difficult, you're never really like, oh, I'm so ready. I mean, there's always something, at least in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, did I do enough? Am I really, But at some point, you just have to be like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's time to go. It's go time.
So I don't know if we were both teaching this night, but I touched on this earlier to the students and basically said, hey, expect to have matches in front of the whole class, competition style, leading up to this tournament, because that's really going to simulate it as much as it can, as much as we can, is all eyes on you, the pressure of competing in front of your peers and your coach. And you're going to get that similar adrenaline spike or adrenaline dump. And so I think that's ultimately like the best way that you can prepare is like really all eyes on them, making them feel that pressure. Because for their first jiu-jitsu tournament, they're going to feel, they're going to shake hands and start competing. And they're going to be like, I was tired in a minute, because there's so much adrenaline. There's so much, you put so much pressure on yourself, so many nerves. So I think allowing them to feel that to the level that we can at All Ground is going to help them a lot. And so I just said, be ready to have as many of those as we can get before you actually compete.
Yeah, I think, obviously, like, your confidence is going to build based on your preparation. But one thing I like to tell people is just to, like, be as present as possible. When you're out there and it's your first competition or your second, like, try to be present. Like, for me, an example would be like my first two amateur fights. I just remember walking out of the cage afterwards and not remembering a thing, because the adrenaline was so high, my nerves were up, like I was all this excitement, and I just remember it was almost like I blacked out, And so I try to tell people, like, be present, like, this is an exciting thing, this is fun. You want to be able to remember this after, like, remember how it felt to have a tough match. Remember what happened when you missed that single leg or where you didn't finish that single leg, or remember what happened when you got swept, or remember what it felt like when you finally locked that submission in, So if you can, like, be present enough to, like, feel all these things in the moment, it's also, like, going to calm your mind, and it's just going to help you
process the match, process what's going on, be able to listen to your coach, be able to implement, it's not just it's not just all noise. It's going to make
the experience more enjoyable overall.
Yeah. Definitely through preparation and putting yourself in there, that those situations, you're going to feel like you have a stronger ability to be present for sure.
Yeah.
I know it took me a lot of time as well, and I remember the same thing. Just even in my first pro fight, I'm like, holy shit. That just, everything happens so fast. It's crazy. But yeah.
Well, there's a cue that I like sometimes people use in CrossFit, when you're doing a really, really hard workout, and you kind of you have to take like little breaks for a breath and then go back to the next set, whatever. But sometimes your coach will say, go before you're ready. And the idea, of course, is that you're super tired, you're fatigued, and you're trying to rest enough to a point where you feel comfortable, but that's too much rest.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go before you actually feel ready to go. And I think that translates into, competition, where sometimes, they say fight and you don't feel ready, but you just have to go.
Yeah.
Like it's time. And the more you go before you're ready in training, the more it's going to be natural when you fight.
I think that's also a way to, like, when people ask, oh, how can I improve my cardio or, for jiu-jitsu? It's like, you just have to have those moments where you're waiting and you've waited too long. Like, you just got to go. Like, okay, you passed their guard. Now work to, get to the submission or control this position. Like, just go to the next thing.
Right.
I mean, for sure, we're trying to teach like the ability to slow the match down, but you can't even get there if you don't go, if you don't pull the trigger,
Yeah.
You're like, take the shot, The worst that happens in a jiu-jitsu tournament is, you get submitted. Yeah. But as a beginner, as anyone that's not doing it for a living, for their livelihood, like, there's really nothing to lose,
Yeah, for sure. And everyone deals with nerves differently. Some people are just going to put way too much. They're going to get too nervous and it's going to affect their performance. Some people are going to feel more comfortable than others, like it's kind of a case by case basis, And for me, like, I feel nervous like up until the moment that I'm in there, And even like right before we're about to shake hands, I'm like a little nervous. And I think it's normal, but you can't let it get to you. And I think it also just comes from experience. The more you face nerves like that, the more you know how to deal with it, like anything. Yeah. It's like
the cold plunge, right? Like
exactly.
It never stops sucking.
Yeah.
But at some point you just get better at embracing the suck.
Yeah. Yeah. You get better at just doing it, jumping in and being like, yeah, I'm going to be cold. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Is there anything, I know this is a hard question, but is there anything like you guys, because Ty, you've done a lot of competing in your life and Elias, obviously, but just things that you do to like deal with the nerves in those moments or like, it's kind of tough. It's kind of a tough ask, Well,
obviously, like just some of the physiological things you can do, just force yourself to take deep breaths.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That will calm you, whether you know it or not. It helps a lot. But then on the mental side of things, I always try to remind myself that my competitors are just as nervous as me. And, that's not different for them. They're not robots. They're people like I am, And so no matter how nervous I feel, they're probably just as nervous. And that helps. But you're still nervous. You can't change that, but it does help.
Yeah. That's so true because like so often you get it in your head that you're like, oh man, this guy is just like, he just looks so ready and he wants to fucking hurt me and, come out there and just kill me. But like there's time. Yeah. Cause I'm, guilty of that where I've just thought, I don't even think about that. I don't even think like my opponent's nervous. I'm just like, oh man, this guy looks ready. Like he looks super ready. Like there's nothing phasing him right now, And so
they're thinking the same. Like, fuck, this guy looks scary.
yeah. I'm sure they're thinking the exact same thing. Like, fuck, this guy looks ready.
I'm one tattoos. It looks really scary.
Yeah. One thing like, and I think Musashi talks a little bit about this, but like, kind of just, I know it sounds weird, but like, imagine dying the worst death possible, Like, doesn't he talk about that in his book? Like, if you're going to fight, like, imagine dying the worst death possible.
If you're going to live to fight, like, be willing to die,
Yeah. So, I know for me, like, there's times where I kind of, like, think about, okay, what's something bad that can happen? I get, like, knocked out in front of everyone or I get submitted or, and I just try to think like, okay, my family's just still gonna be there for me no matter what. They're gonna love me, like, and I think it's good to like, obviously not think like, oh, this might happen, but think like, hey, these are the possibilities of fighting, and like I'm not immune, I'm not, immortal, yeah. So all these things can possibly happen, and I just gotta like be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like be okay with the fact that I'm putting myself in there. But yeah,
I think it's important too to have those thoughts, those real thoughts before the training camp even starts.
Yeah.
So you're not like setting them to the side until the fight comes. Because I feel like in the past I've just trained really hard because I felt like I wanted to be prepared, but I wasn't even dealing with the thoughts of, the worst ways to lose.
Yeah.
Until like the actual fight came, I'm like, oh, well, now it's here. What if I lose this way?
Yeah.
But I think if you just have that talk with yourself before the training camp even starts, that's gonna inspire you to strategize the best way, you know, so that result doesn't happen. You know, you're gonna strategize the way that you're gonna be able to implement the game plan and protect yourself as much as you can.
I think too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just answering your question about dealing with the nerves, and I remember like competing for the CJJ title, like just thinking at some point I had done enough. You know, I had done enough. Like I was in the semifinals. You know, people are gonna be proud of me here, but then you just also remember that it's just a sport. You know, and sometimes I think about what Jordan Burroughs always says, and he's like, imagine it's your last match. Like, really imagine that. Yeah. Imagine this is the last match that you're going to be remembered for. Yeah. You know, everybody is going to be able to look back on Elias's last match, right? And this is what happened. Yeah. And in those moments, I'm like, well, I just got to give it my all. Like, I'm going to go out there and try to win, you know, try to do everything in my power to win. Yeah. And when you switch that to that mentality, then it doesn't matter what happens. If you did everything in your power to try and win, you can't help but be proud of what you've done. And at that point, the better man wins. You know, the one that was more prepared, the one that just had better technique is going to win.
Or maybe, I mean, sometimes it comes down to luck. I mean, especially in jiu-jitsu, because like I watch the matches and sometimes they get off to the side of the mat and they try to reset you back toward the center. And maybe there's like a subtle shift in a position when that reset happens. And then your opponent gets the better of you, but maybe wouldn't have had the match continued.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was going to say is I think obviously you're confident in yourself that you're going to win, but I think when you understand that like losing can happen to anyone and that things will be okay, it almost like you don't fight with as much fear, you know? And if you go in there and you like compete with fear, you're going to hold back. And like with like less fear of the outcome and more just like, I'm going to give my all to this. I'm going to do exactly what I practice. I'm going to work my hardest in this fight and I'm going to give everything. Yeah. And then it's like, it allows you to open up and be free in there, you know? And in most of the times when you feel that way, that's when you're doing your best.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. You see a lot of fights where you're expecting just, you know, an incredible fight between two high-level athletes, and sometimes it's very like stale, very stagnant. Yeah. And I think it's because some of them are just, you know, fighting not to lose, and that's part of the fear. That's part of like, if I open up too much, they're gonna catch me and they're gonna hurt me. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, hesitation gets you killed as well. So
it's true in everything, though. I mean, you think about like Lola singing, right? Yeah. If she goes out there and she's tentative, it's not gonna sound as good, right? Like she has to like open her heart up and just go for it. Yeah. She has to give it her all. Yeah. And then that's going to be the best that she could do. Yeah. On the other hand, you know, if you're singing and you like give it your all, nobody's going to punch you in the face. So at least at most concerts.
Mike Tyson always says everybody has a game plan until they get hit in the face.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah. You got to recognize that as part of the game plan, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's martial arts, MMA, like you're going to get hit. You're going to get cut. Yeah. You just hope that you can cut your opponent down first. Yeah. No.
Yeah. We're approaching an hour and we still haven't finished talking about the fights.
You really like amortizing it across the whole hour.
It's fun. It's funny how we're like, let's start with the fights this time. Yeah. And now it's just like it leads us into all these different conversations.
You never promised a quick conclusion to that conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to Kron. No.
Let's just run through them real quickly.
Yeah,
you know, because there was only a few fights that we actually even talked about on the previous podcast.
Yeah, I think let's just go co-main and main. Yeah. You know, Ian Gary and Shavkat. I think
it went all 5 rounds. Right?
Yeah, it went all 5 rounds, and I thought they both looked really good. I thought Ian Gary's takedown defense in like the first 3 rounds was really, really high level. Shavkat looked stronger when they did clinch up. Like anytime they were put into like a chest position, over under or double unders, like Shavkat was clearly able to control that area, put him up against the cage. But the whole time, Ian did so well at keeping his balance and eventually escaping, getting back to his striking. They both looked very good. Honestly, Shavkat is super dangerous everywhere. He can strike. Mm-hmm. He can kick. He was throwing some spinning back heel kicks that were just so fast. And one just went right by Ian's nose. Really? Like, oh, dude. It was so fast, too, that I thought, like, if he had just been an inch closer, like, just epic knockout.
Spinning back kicks or spinning wheel kicks?
Spinning wheel kick, spinning back hook kick, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. But yeah, he threw a couple of those that were like, holy shit, those are fast. But Ian, I think he could have pulled the trigger a little more. He did really well at, like I said in the last pod, like I thought he would stay on the outside and land from there, use his range, use his speed, kind of land from there. And he took away a couple rounds by doing that. Eventually, Shavkat started attacking the legs with his wrestling rather than the upper body and had a little more success, had more control time. But in that last round that Shavkat went for a shot, Ian Gary reversed it, got to his back, and was looking for subs, looking for RNCs, had a couple of them nearly under the chin, like with the gable grip, but just couldn't convert to that full RNC grip and just couldn't finish him.
Yeah.
And then Shavkat eventually reversed it, but it was a great fight. And I think, like I said, everyone was just expecting Shavkat to run through Ian Gary. But just from what I was seeing, like from both of them, I mean, Ian Gary fought like a guy that has never lost and didn't want to do that tonight or that night, you know?
Yeah.
So they both did.
Yeah.
You know, and when you get guys like that just do not want to accept a loss, like it's going to be a competitive fight. You know, no matter what level you think they're on or how separated you think they are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I see great things for both of them in the future. Yeah. But Bilal's just a savage. That pace is insane. Yeah. And he looks good everywhere too, his wrestling, grappling, and his boxing. Yeah. So I don't know exactly my pick for that one yet, but I'm leaning a little towards Bilal.
Yeah, for sure. I'm riding with Bilal too, always. Chicago homie.
Yeah.
We met Bilal Muhammad in Chicago, and he was, dude, so down to earth.
You met with him. I mean, I met him briefly, but I was like cutting weight.
Homies.
I was cutting weight. Elias and Umar were training, and after, Umar and Elias trained for quite a bit, Elias was starting to chat with Bilal, and
yeah, we were just rolling around on the warm-up mats there. But, got to talk with Bilal, and that was cool. I knew he was, top 5 or top 10 at the time and just on a massive winning streak. Yeah. And just super cool dude.
Yeah, very down to earth. Very cool. Yeah. Nice dude.
Everybody thought I was a fool picking him against Leon Edwards when he won the title. But I just knew because he was training with the Dagestanis also. He was training with Khabib's team, and then he's just got a really loyal, great team in Chicago. Just those guys seem to all just believe in each other so much and do whatever it takes to win. Yeah. But that's cool. That's going to be a good fight for him, a good matchup regardless.
For sure, 100%. The main event, though, gosh, dude, Pantoja. I mean, we talked about this, how much of a savage he is and how much he's willing to just dig deep no matter what, but dude, I don't think there's many guys with the type of mentality that he has.
Yeah,
where he's just
ability to dig as deep as he can.
Yeah.
Would you say he's just built different?
This guy's
I think
built
Supa
different.
would definitely say that.
Yeah, she's definitely built
she
different.
would definitely say that. That's something that Supa says.
Yeah, she says that a lot. Huh?
Oh, totally, all the time. Favorite thing.
Yeah. No, I honestly, yes, I do think Pantoja is just built a little different. Yeah. Just mentality wise, he's just a different kind of breed. I mean, Asakura, for one, is so explosive, so dangerous, was hitting knees he can hit knees from anywhere to the body, to the head. And he's so fast twitch that it comes out so fast and so powerful. There was a couple moments where I was like, oh my gosh, please don't get knocked out in the first round. I was like, where Asakura was just throwing up knees, and he landed 2 of them, and one of them he landed to the body, which just 95% of UFC fighters would just crumple and just be like, yeah, that's it. I don't want to take any more of those. And like you could see it on Pantoja's face, like just the grit.
Just ate it.
Like it looked like, you know how when you hit someone with a good body shot and they make a face, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like he started making that face and then he was like, nah. No, I'm not. Yeah, he fixed his face right away. Oh, man, like he started making the face like he was like, oh, like, you know, you're about to go down because you can't breathe. But he was like, I'm just going to charge forward on this guy now, you know, and he just kept going. It was a crazy knee. Like Tina and I kept talking about it. We're like, he might have a broken rib from that. Like that's how hard that knee was. And you can hear it just smack. But yeah, I was, I mean, obviously
savage,
ultra impressed by Pantoja. He's just a savage, just a beast. And then also with Asakura, I feel like there's a lot of guys in that division that he can beat, and that would be a great fight for him. What we were talking about earlier with like how you just do not settle. Yeah, like he was doing a really good job. Like Pantoja kept getting in on attacks, like wrestling attacks. And Kai was just not settling. No. Like, he would just not settle. Anytime it was just a wrestling exchange, Kai would defend it and come out on top. But once, like, Pantoja got to the back, like, obviously his grappling was just so much more high level, especially that back control. Yeah. And eventually finished it. But, oh, that was so badass. Pantoja is a savage.
Yeah. He called out Demetrius Johnson, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of sick, actually.
Yeah. No. It's weird too because people are like, oh, well, Demetrius Johnson has 11 title defenses, but he also, I think they had the same amount of fights thus far in the UFC or something or in the flyweight division. So I think I think Demetrius has 13 or 14 flyweight fights and 11 title defenses. Pantoja's had 14 flyweight fights and 3 title defenses. So it's like, depending on how you're putting it, like Pantoja's just as great. Yeah. Obviously, like when DJ was there, he was kind of like the start of that division. You know, that division was just forming. So he's been the champion since the beginning of it. So he had more of a chance to defend that belt. Yeah. You know, and now the sport and the roster has grown. So, but I think Pantoja, what he's done in the flyweight division is just as impressive, and it would put him in the talks for like flyweight GOAT for sure. Yeah. But anyway, you were gonna ask, do you think?
Oh no, I was just saying you don't think it would even be possible.
No, Demetrius Johnson would not. Yeah, I think he's too much in love with the gi.
With the gi.
Too in love
and
with
YouTube.
gi jiu-jitsu. Yeah, making too much money from YouTube and gi jiu-jitsu.
That'd be cool. It's such a cool call out though, because you're just you're calling out the greatest of all time in the flyweight division.
Oh man, it's like just on that topic of Demetrius getting like really into gi jiu-jitsu, and I freaking love Demetrius Johnson. I think he's awesome, but there's this one thing, like he had this match against this Japanese guy in the Masters Worlds. Yeah. And I think this was the semifinals, and he beat him in a close match, and like the Japanese guy was just on his like hands and knees crying, and Demetrius like walks up to him and he's like, hey man, it's just for fun. Remember, it's just for fun. You know, like, and he was like patting him on the back and like being like, it's all good. It's all good. Like, it's just fun. Come on, man. And I'm like, bro, no, it's not. For some of these people, it's not just for fun. Yeah. Like, you've already won world titles.
Yeah.
You're just doing, it's fun for you. Like, competing for a Masters world title in jiu-jitsu, of course, is just for fun for you. Yeah. Because you've already done everything that you were like passionate about achieving, you know? Yeah. But for this Japanese guy who's like been training for fucking 10 plus years, you know, to become the best Masters black belt in his division, I don't think this is just for fun. Yeah. You know?
You think it made him feel worse when he's like, hey man, it's just for fun? He's like, no, I don't know. Not. Get out.
He's like, I've sacrificed 2 marriages. I just think it was
one of those like
divorced 3 times.
Yeah. I just think it was like one of those
to my
like
kids.
Easy for you to say moments, you know?
Right.
It's like
easy for you to
come
say.
on. I mean, not knocking DJ, but that was a little. I mean, the guy is that's probably that guy's life.
Read the room, bro. Read the room.
Yeah. But anyway.
What do you think about Marcelo Garcia coming back and
I think it's awesome.
Imanari?
Yeah.
That's
so cool. So cool.
That's such a good match.
I mean, Marcelo is obviously like a guy that we just watched and studied for so long since we were kids. And Imanari, you got the chance to compete against him, and just recently you got the chance to train with him again in Japan.
That was awesome.
And so both of those guys, I'm
so
hyped
cool.
for both of them.
So
I
cool.
mean,
Both
I personally
legends.
like Imanari has been more active in competing, but Marcelo is just the pinnacle of the sport,
Yeah, at one point for sure. Yeah,
so
awesome.
I don't know who's gonna win, but I like Marcelo's odds, and I think it's gonna be a great match regardless. And I'm excited for both those dudes.
Yeah, that's super cool. Marcelo Garcia, Ty, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners of all time, but also the first jiu-jitsu book I ever had was X-Guard by Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And now he's coming back to compete, coming out of retirement.
And also had two
50-something
super crazy matches against Kron and ADCC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But dude, I'm excited about
So
that.
cool.
I'm excited that guy.
If Marcelo
beat
can do
cancer
it,
and just,
so can you, Dad. Come on.
Dad's comeback coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. 2025 is Dad's year.
Yeah, for sure.
You just got to play him Eye of the Tiger. Maybe that's what he needs right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, if you
Eye of the
listen to
Tiger.
that song, there's no way you can't be hyped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Greatest song of all time.
I mean, it is the greatest song of all time.
One of these buttons
Has
should
to be Eye of the Tiger. Or
No,
we
no,
should
the
just
song.
get Maz to record him saying "Eye of the Tiger."
No. I think we should actually have the song on here.
I will make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna put Eye of the Tiger on.
Yeah. anytime you just need an Eye of the Tiger moment, it's going to play it.
And that's how we'll start our intro. Anyway, anything going on this week? The rest of the week?
The rest of the week?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's just Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. So what do we got going on the rest of the week before we end this? Because we've been going for quite a bit now. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Any announcements for All Ground?
Yeah. Any all ground announcements?
We're all around.
And like we've been talking about how we're doing our first comp as a team on February 1st. So we're getting prepped for that.
Yeah, that feels good. I love the mentality switch, and most everyone's on board right now, which is great. But people are just showing up.
Yeah.
Showing up and just trying to get better.
6 a.m.'s getting big.
6 a.m. is getting
6
big.
a.m. is getting big.
Our goal has always been to have the biggest 6 a.m. class in Reno or just in the area.
Yeah.
And it's growing.
Yeah,
now,
it is growing.
It's funny that it's growing around this time too, which is like statistically the
time for people to fall off.
the slower months for martial arts businesses.
Yeah.
Really, any fitness, people just kind of like right up until the new year. In the new year, everybody gets all excited for like a week. And then after that, it just goes back to nothing.
Yeah.
But right now, you guys get some momentum down there. It's good.
Yeah. It's cool.
On a personal level, Friends Christmas next weekend.
Yeah, we got this weekend.
Oh yeah, this weekend. Yeah. This
Which,
weekend.
I mean, semantically, is it next weekend? Is this weekend next weekend? It's the next weekend.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah, it
next
is.
weekend.
I mean, argument could be
It's
made.
The next weekend that's on the calendar,
There you go.
Yeah,
or would that be
next weekend.
the next one?
Well, if it's this weekend, then
It's this coming weekend.
man,
this
So
coming
we
weekend.
can't
if it
get
were
into
a
this
Saturday or a Sunday and you said this weekend, it would mean like today or tomorrow. But if it were a Saturday or Sunday and you said next weekend, it would mean a week from now.
Oh.
But if you're midweek,
Yeah,
you
what
could
do you
use
say?
either this weekend or next weekend.
Guys.
And I think they mean the same thing.
Comment what you think it is.
And we'll send you
And
an
all
all ground
ground
hat.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, Temp Ty's wearing one right now.
Yeah,
That is
but not that you'll be able to see that because you'll never see Temp Ty's
No
face.
way,
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
I hope we get like a mom that watches this show and just asks, "Is Temp Ty cute?"
Yeah. And then
Like,
Sybil
just
will be pissed.
And the goal is to for the podcast to be big enough that we can start selling Temp Ty merch and people are just all about it. Just like a face
Yeah.
with a question mark on it.
Yeah.
Who is this
We'll just start
mystery
talking
man?
about everything, They could just start like imagining Temp Ty. People will start making like animated like stories of Temp Ty.
The legend will grow.
We should do an episode with Temp Ty where he has a microphone in front of him on camera, but he's holding a newspaper the whole time. Just does not stop
Just
holding
the
the
hat.
newspaper.
Just the hat above.
Yeah, no, I think that would be awesome.
Every once in a while, I'll snap the paper,
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Until we just have a bunch of women commenting, wanting to know, or just thinking that Temp Ty is just this. Which he is.
He's a hunk of a man.
Yeah. He's a beautiful dude. And but Super might get jealous and not let him do the podcast anymore. So we can't let that happen. Yeah. If you're a girl, do not comment about how cute Temp Ty is.
Or maybe.
Anyway.
All right, cool.
Later.
Peace.
All right.
President.